You're listening to Career Interrupted, and I'm your host, Joy Foster. Welcome to the show, Georgina Colman, the founder of the UK's first disabled discount platform called Purpl Discounts. She herself has MS and ADHD, and she saw a gap in the market to make a difference in the lives of disabled people. So, Georgina, we are so glad you're here. Let's dive right in. You've had multiple career interruptions, but tell us about your first two interruptions.
So I had my son in 2002, so I took some time off work then. Not very long, but I went back to work after about 3 or 4 months. And then in 2016, my walking started going downhill, kind of the year after I got married. And because of that, I found that I couldn't do the work in the same way that I could before. I felt really bad because I couldn't walk properly. I couldn't go and just do things quickly. So that definitely had an impact on my career and made me think, actually, what do I want to do in my life? What can I do with my life now with living with a disability that impacts me on a day-to-day basis?
That's really interesting. You know, I get a lot of people on the podcast that have all sorts of different interruptions. Children is usually one of the biggest interruptions, but for you, it was your health. When were the stakes the highest in terms of your health? When obviously you were struggling to walk, when was it at its worst, and how did that impact your career?
I think it was probably around sort of 2017, 2018 that it really became challenging for me to go and work outside of the home because I've got a weak bladder. I need to be near the toilet. I couldn't walk properly. I just felt like I wasn't comfortable in an office environment and being able to do the things that you would normally be able to do easily. You know, you become really conscious of what you can and can't do when you suddenly can't do the things that you could do before. And it did make me think, yeah, I can't carry on. I can't go and work in London, or I can't go and work in a big office somewhere because it just would be really difficult for me.
And when that happened, what was the biggest fear or doubt that you had that impacted you in that moment?
I think because I've been a single mum for about 5 years before I met my second husband, not being able to provide, not being able to have that security for my son as you know, as I was getting older, not having a pension, not having the funds that I would want to be able to have, it makes you really conscious of that. You know, my husband's brilliant and he is happy to be the breadwinner, but I've always been independent. I've worked since I was probably 16 years old, if not younger. So losing that ability to be able to fend for myself was really scary, I think.
I can only imagine. There are some surprises that have come out of this. What are some of the surprises that have come out of this career interruption?
My health. I think a lot of people might feel that their life is over when they have a long-term condition. But actually for me, this is a problem. How can I improve upon it? And I spent a lot of time looking at my diet, my exercise, the supplements I take, being more mindful and not allowing stress to impact my life. I'm probably the healthiest person I know, even though I can't walk, because my body, and it's really cliche, my body is a temple. You know, I think about everything. I don't use any deodorants with toxins in because, you know, constantly spraying that on your body, suntan lotions. I'm really not anti everything, but just try and think about what I'm putting in my body. I'd rather sit in the shade now than sit in the sun constantly, for example, just so that I don't have to put suntan lotion on my skin that's full of chemicals. So yeah, I think it's made me really reassess my health. When I was younger, I didn't care. I put anything in my body and, you know, drank lots and ate lots like everyone does without any kind of thought about what that would do to me as I grew older.
So I love that you say that you're the healthiest person you know, and yet there are challenges. You can't walk, but you haven't let that stop you. You've gone on to create Purpl Discounts. So tell us about that and how that came to fruition, and what and why it's so fabulous.
So I truly believe everything in life happens for a reason. I believe that my disability has led me to Purpl. I was out shopping a couple of years ago and I realised that whilst my son could get a student discount, I couldn't get a discount for being disabled yet. Being disabled is really expensive, and I think people believe you get everything given to you through the NHS. You don't. You get left to your own devices. You have to fund things for yourself. And it costs on average over £1,000 a month to be disabled and live with a disability. And I definitely live and breathe those costs. You know, it is expensive. And so I wanted to help my community offset those costs through discounts. It seemed really unfair that students get discounts, carers get discounts, key workers, everyone but the disabled community. Yet we have the challenges of the cost of being disabled. It's harder to find employment, so a lot of people don't have the same job opportunities. And even when they do, there are pay gap differences as well. There was some research done last year on that. So for me, it was about helping my community save money, but also Purpl is much more than just discounts. We're building a community. We've got an amazing members only group already. We only launched in July last year, but we've got a fantastic group of people who help each other out as well. They ask questions, nothing to do with discounts, but about other things like where they might be able to get help and support. I've become a bit of a TikTok star because helping people understand what benefits they can get to help them save money. So it's not just about getting the discounts, it's about making the information accessible in one place. So you don't have to go and look all over the internet when you become disabled. You can come to Purpl and know that we're there for you. And my whole kind of purpose for Purpl is to use it as a stepping stone to build a foundation, so I can give grants directly to people who can't afford maybe therapies that would make a difference to their life or equipment that would help them. I see people fundraising for wheelchairs online, and it's like, that shouldn't have to happen. Like, I want to be able to make Purpl really successful so I can launch a foundation and give grants to people within the community who need that extra support that would actually improve their quality of life. So that's kind of my goal. And in the meantime, we are working with charities. Even though we're not profitable yet, we still give money to charities. It's really important to me that I do as I say and not just say it. And we employ disabled people from the community as well. So my marketing manager, she's disabled. And we've got another lady starting soon. She's also got a disability. So that's really important as well for me, that we recruit people as well from the community.
That is so awesome. And I love seeing women who recognize that their message is more important than their fear of getting it out there. And you have done that. You've taken off your invisibility cloak. You've put yourself on TikTok. You've made yourself uncomfortable in the greater good of what that's going to create. And I really love that. And it's so inspiring. And I know there's a lot of people listening to this podcast who, you're a breath of fresh air for them and something really exciting to check out and look into. Tell me about the lessons that you learned in this whole process. Obviously, you've done some amazing things. You've built this incredible community. You've got this great, gorgeous vision. What are some of the lessons that you've learned along the way?
That everything doesn't have to be perfect. As my husband tells me, I'm a real perfectionist and I like everything to be brilliant and look great. And he's like, no one else sees it the way you see it. So I think that's really important, that just remembering that it doesn't have to be perfect all the time. And I think that's definitely been a lesson, and letting go, because when you start a business, you're on your own, and we're still a very small team. And I'm having to learn I can let go and other people can do it. I don't know if that's an ADHD trait as well, but we like to do things ourselves because then we know it's going to be done to how we expect it to be done. But that
might be an ADHD trait. I have the same challenge. But I love that. So a lesson you've learned is to let things go, like including letting go of perfectionism, letting other people do things. Yeah, I love that. And is there a motto that you live by? I always like to ask our guests that as the final question, just to leave us with an inspirational piece.
I think anything is possible. I think that if you have the vision, you can make it happen. I'm a big believer in that. So yeah, everything happens for a reason, but just positivity and drive. I think, I don't have a specific motto, but yeah, I just think that I don't like to be told no. Someone tells me no, I'll go and prove otherwise. So
yeah, I'd written down, you don't like no. So where can people find you if they want to get into your community or they want to get a hold of some discounts?
Yeah, so they can sign up on the website. It's really easy. We accept a whole host of disability documentation, and we're always there to help anyone who needs a bit of support with that whole process as well. And then
the website link is?
It's purplediscounts.com. So Purpl
without an E.
Without the E. And yeah, even if you just type in Purpl discounts into Google, it will come up. There's a lot of videos of me that you'll see on there as well from TikTok. So you should be able to find us pretty easily.
Is there a significance behind the missing E?
So purple is the colour for the disabled community. It's kind of known as the colour that kind of represents disabilities. And it was actually my husband's idea. He said, take off the E and then you can trademark it. It still says purple and it's a nice name. So that's exactly what we did.
I
And
love it.
it's funny because I've spent the whole of my life since I married my husband saying, my surname's Colman without the E. And now I have to go, it's Purpl without the E.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today. Thank you for sharing your story. I know it will inspire people who are listening to this podcast. We get a lot of people who write in after they've heard the podcast. And so I know your story will inspire them. We will, of course, put all of the links to Purpl discounts, etc., below in the show notes. So wherever you're watching this, if you go to our website, you'll grab the show notes or on the podcast provider that you listen to. So thank you, Georgina. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Isn't that great to get to speak to someone who didn't let challenges stop her? She doesn't like the word no, and she's creating this incredible transformational community in terms of transforming their lives, making it better for people with disabilities to get a hold of equipment, to get a hold of discounts. And I just think it's phenomenal. So I feel really lucky that I got to interview Georgina today, and I hope you got to enjoy that as much as I did. I'll see you next week on our next podcast. Bye for now.